If you've just picked up your GoPro Hero 13 Black and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of the buttons and settings, then you are in the right place. In today's video, I'm going to cover everything that you need to know to get started with your new GoPro. From turning it on to picking up the right SD card to the recommended settings for different types of shots. I've used GoPro cameras for over 10 years and tested the new Hero 13 Black since it came out in September 2024. There is quite a lot to cover today, but I've tried to simplify everything to make it easy to understand, even if you're just starting out making videos with GoPros. Now let's jump right in. Okay, step 1. Let's talk about the battery first. The GoPro Hero 13 Black comes with a new design battery that is different from the previous models. This is the new version, which has improved capacity by 10-15% compared to the GoPro Hero 12. But it's slightly larger and not backwards compatible with previous GoPro models like GoPro Hero 11 or GoPro Hero 12. And that's a little bit of a bummer because if you already had a lot of batteries, then you can't use them with the new camera. But on the other side, you'll have more capacity on the new ones. In terms of battery life, you can expect about 70 to 80 minutes of recording times with max out settings, or around 2 hours if you lower resolutions and frame rate to like 4K 30 FPS. Of course, battery life really depends on how you use your GoPro and what settings you've got set. If you turn off Bluetooth and all the wireless connections, the battery will last longer. To get started, you're going to want to pop the battery in. On the side of your GoPro, there is a door with a latch. Just slide that open and you'll see the battery slot. Make sure that the metal contacts on the battery match up with the ones inside. Then push in until it clicks. Then make sure this is closed properly, otherwise if you go underwater, water will leak in if it's not closed properly. Now to charge your batteries, just grab the USB-C cable that came inside of the box and plug it into the side of the GoPro. You can charge it while the battery is inside, or if you have a separate charger, you can charge the battery on its own. It takes about 2 hours to get a full charge, and you'll see a little charging icon on the screen when it's juicing up. One cool feature about the new GoPro Hero 13 is the magnetic mounting charger that attaches on the side of the GoPro. I haven't got it right here with me, but as you can see here, it's a magnetic mounting system, which makes charging even easier. If you get the compatible charging accessory, you can attach it magnetically to the side of the GoPro without having to open any ports. It's waterproof and it comes in handy for those long time lapses. But this is a separate accessory, meaning that you need to buy it separately, and I left the link down in the description if you're interested. Now, can you use the GoPro without a battery? This is a quite strange question that some people ask me, and the answer is yes, you can. If you remove your battery, the GoPro battery, and you plug it in to a charger or a power bank, you can still use the GoPro without the battery. Let me show you. This is an interesting setup in case for some odd reason you don't have any GoPro battery, or if you want to leave your GoPro for long hours shooting like a time lapse, for example. Turning on and off your GoPro is super simple. You just need to press the side button here. This is also the mode button, which lets you switch mode from time lapse to photos to video. When it's on, if you want to switch it off, just press it again, hold it for a couple of seconds, and it will switch off again. And then we got another button, which is the top button. This is the recording button. You can use it to start or stop the recording, or to shoot a photo when your GoPro is on. This also works when the GoPro is turned off. Just press the shutter button and it will turn on and immediately start recording. Press it again to stop recording and turn off. It's super convenient when you need to capture something fast. This feature is called Quick Capture. Before you start shooting, I highly recommend checking if your GoPro has the latest firmware. Keeping it updated ensures that you've got all the newest features and the bug fixes. To do this, you need an internet connection. So open the GoPro Quick app on your phone, pair it with your GoPro, and the app will let you know if there is any update available. The GoPro Hero 13 Black records in high resolutions, so you'll need a fast MicroSD card to handle the data. I recommend getting one of the V30 or U30 rated or higher, otherwise files won't get saved properly. As for the SD card size, I usually use at least 128 gigabytes or anything above that. I talk about the recommended SD cards for GoPro Hero 13 Black in this video up here, check it out. Now let's pop the MicroSD card in. This is a Samsung Evo Select V30 rating, as the one suggested by GoPro. So we just need to open the door. If you are not careful, it will come off like it did to me, but it's very easy to put it back, just like so, and then take the microSD card and just slide it in. So once it clicks, you're good to go. Close the door, make sure it's properly closed, Now I want to give you an overview of the settings, but before we proceed, I'll highly recommend you to download the GoPro setting cheat sheet that I've got right here as a reference later on when I talk about the settings. It's free and you can download it down in the description below. It's a PDF. So we have 3 different kinds of modes: video, photo, and time-lapse. And on the GoPro Hero 13, you can see that there is 2 kinds of controls: easy settings or pro settings. Swapping down, swipe left, click here, you can switch between easy and pro controls. Now, if we stay on the easy control, everything will be quite basic. On the main display, you'll have some shortcuts that link you to the specific setting. If we tap here, we'll have a slow motion setting. So from here, you can select which kind of frame rate you'll want in order to produce a slow motion video or not. Then we'll have the digital lens, which refers to the field of view. So how wide you want your image to be. And then here we have image quality. So choosing from 1080p to standard, which is 4K, or the highest image quality, which is 5.3K. And then following, we have the framing. You can choose from windscreen, vertical, or full frame. So as you can see, these are pretty basic settings. I usually like to change it and always stay on the pro controls because it gives you like a more control over your settings, and they're not actually difficult. Now I want to give you a settings overview for each mode, starting from video. So now that we are in pro controls and we have access to all of the settings, let's click here to access all of your settings for video mode. Photo, if we switch to photo and click here, we get access to all of the settings, to all of the pro settings for photo mode. ProTune, shortcuts, etc. Same as time-lapse. We can see that there are already presets that you can choose depending on what you would like to achieve, what you want to shoot. We got time warp, star trails, light painting, vehicle lights, time-lapse, night-lapse, and also you can also create your own setting. These are very, very cool features that you can use to get creative while you're shooting. I won't spend a lot of time on this as I'm preparing a new video about how to shoot the best time-lapse videos with your GoPro. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. If you don't need to connect any external devices to your GoPro, like your phone or an external wireless microphone, for example, then I would highly recommend to switch off all of the wireless connections of your GoPro in order to save up battery. You need to access to the generic settings, just swipe down, and then it should be under preferences, and you should be able to find wireless connections right here, and then connections, type on that, and then you can see that is by default it was on, and I want to switch it off. So I just type on off, and if you have connections on off, then you're good to go. Your battery will last a little bit longer. What you want to do next is to enable the grid, which will give you a reference as to where your subject is positioned in the frame. And this is very useful. So to enable the grid is very simple. Let's access to the generic settings again, swipe down, swipe left, and then we go to preferences, and we should be able to find displays. And then the grid is the last option, type on that, and then make sure it's on. I hope you can see it. We've got 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. That will help you follow the rule of thirds. Now, what you want to do next is to set the right PAL or NTSC setting based on where you are located. Generic setting, swipe down and swipe left, get access to preferences, and then you should be able to see regional. PAL is typically used in Europe and Australia, while NTSC is a standard for the US and all the Americas. This is often an overlooked setting, but it's very important because it can make or break your shots, especially those taken near artificial lights.
It's raining.
It's raining. The wrong setting here will cause a very annoying light flickering in your videos like this one. Now, if we go to the video settings again, let's take a closer look to every video setting here. You need to be in Pro mode to be able to access the screen. You can choose between different video profiles. Standard is great for everyday use, while HDR captures more details in the shadows and highlights, and it's used on very bright days. And then we got log. As it says, it requires color correction because it's a flat color profile that is perfect if you're planning to do some color grading or applying some LUTs in post-production. Then we move on to framing. Here you can change the aspect ratio and framing all of your shots. If you are filming for YouTube, you probably want to stick with 16 by 9. For socials like Instagram or TikTok, you probably want to choose 9 by 16, which is a vertical format. But what I like to do is filming everything in full frame 8 by 7 and frame my video later in post-production based on where it's going to be published. You film once and you can repurpose the same shot to different aspect ratios. If you use this setting, just make sure that your subjects are always kept kind of in the middle of the frame so that if you reframe later in post-production, your subject won't be cut out. When it comes to resolutions, you have a ton of options here, from 1080p to 2.7, 4K and 5.3. Even if a resolution of 1080p would just be enough in most situations, it's better to shoot at a higher resolution like 4K or 5.3K to allow space for cropping into your frame without losing any quality in case you need to. Then moving on to frame rate, we'll see that it ranges from 24 FPS all the way to 200 FPS. This is not 240 FPS because I previously selected PAL instead of NTFC. So let's go back to regional. And here, if we go to NTSC, which is the standard setting for US and all the Americas, then we'll be able to, you see it's doing some flickering because at the moment I'm in Europe and it's interfering with the internal lights that I've got here. If I was in the US, now that I switched to NTFC, then it wouldn't be showing any flickers. But anyways, this is just to show you what's happening. Now let's go back to frame rate. We got a range from 24 up to 240 FPS. This setting controls the level of slow motion you can apply in your videos. And simply put, anything above 60 FPS, so 60, 120 and 240 will give you a slow motion video. The higher, the slower. The Hero 13 Black specifically can stretch up to 400 FPS, which is a lot, but only in 720p, that is a little bit lower than Full HD. The Hero 13 comes with an incredible image stabilization that is now called HyperSmooth 6.0. This is the latest version of their own digital stabilization feature. So if you're recording while moving, turn on HyperSmooth to keep your footage super steady. You can even crank it up to auto boost for extra stability in more challenging situations. But this will crop your frame a little bit more, so use it only if needed. Now let's go down, we'll see capture, which lets you control all of the timing settings. Alright, with all the basics out of the way, we finally come to the most interesting part of the video. I'll divide this into two parts: settings for everyday videos and settings for cinematic videos. And for this part, I'm going to take the GoPro settings cheat sheet again. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, make sure you do so from the link below. For everyday use in daylight, I would recommend shooting in 4K at 60 FPS so that you have some room for slow motion and HyperSmooth on. In low light environments, it's better to lower the frame rate down to 24 or 30 FPS to allow more light into the sensor. This will give you high quality footage, and won't take much space on your SD card. On the cheat sheet, these settings is reported under vlog, under the vlog section here. For most cinematic shots in daylight, I like to use 5.3K at 24 FPS. This setting will give you the maximum detail possible. Then I enable HyperSmooth and use a linear field of view for a more professional look without the GoPro fisheye. You can also use the new micro lens to create blurred background behind your subject. This is the lens, I've got it right here. This lens will create a more professional cinematic looking because with the blurred background behind the subject, like in this case, it looks way better than the usual action camera look that we are all used to. If you are shooting any kind of action in daylight, then you can bump up your frame rate to 120 or 240 FPS. This will give you a more cinematic feel. Speaking of settings, I'm preparing a video that covers the best settings for your GoPro Hero 13 more in depth. So make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. These little cameras are so versatile when paired with accessories that enable us to get very creative. So I want to spend a moment here talking about some must-have GoPro accessories. And if you want to grab any of these on Amazon, you'll find the links down below. Starting from batteries. I always bring extra batteries with me since they don't last very much. I also like to take a power bank if I'm planning a very long day out. You can use your GoPros while they're all charging, like we've seen before, so that's very handy. Then I love to use GoPro body mounts like the chest or head mounts for POV shots when I'm doing sports, like skiing or kayaking, for example. Then I have a small but solid Manfrotto tripod. The tripod is this right here, which attaches to the extendable selfie stick that I've got right here. The selfie stick is amazing for vlog style shots as it extends quite a lot. And then I have the big one. It's a huge selfie stick that is very long, and I use it to recreate a drone-like effect shots in places where drones are not allowed. If you're a diver and you're planning to take your GoPro underwater below 32 feet or 10 meters, then grab yourself a GoPro case that is specifically used to go, below certain depth. And then last but not least, to get always clean audio, I use this microphone, the Hollyland. It's very useful because even if it doesn't connect with your GoPro wirelessly, because GoPro only accepts certain wireless microphone and this one is not supported, this one in particular will record the audio file inside of the microphone, so I can use this mic with any kind of camera, even if they are not compatible. And the audio quality, it's amazing. Now let's move on to the new lenses, which have been introduced just this year and is one of the coolest parts of the new GoPro Hero 13 Black. These lenses open up creative possibilities depending on what you're shooting. For example, there is the ultra-wide lens mod that I've got right here. Gives you a crazy, almost 180 degrees angle view. It's awesome for capturing those super immersive action shots, and I've tried it when I went to kayaking with some friends. Here's the video about it. Then we also have the micro lens right here. This is perfect if you want to get up close and personal with your subject. It lets you focus on close objects and creates a nice blurred background, which is unusual to see on action cameras. If you're into capturing tiny details like flowers or textures, this one is for you. Here's a video where I test this lens. Check it out if you're interested. Then the ND filter pack is a must if you're shooting in bright conditions, because these filters help you control exposures and create smooth motion blur, giving you shots that look professional. And since the Hero 13 automatically recognizes these lenses, it will also adjust to the optimal setting for each particular lens automatically, making it very easy for everyone. And lastly, they've also got the anamorphic lens coming up in 2025 next year, which targets more the filmmakers out there. It gives your footage that cinematic look with those cool lens flares that you see in movies. Perfect if you're trying to capture something with a real cinematic vibe. Now let's move on to connecting your GoPro to your smartphone. To connect your GoPro to the phone, open the GoPro Quick app. Then select Add Device, then follow the instructions to pair it via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Once it's connected, you can control your GoPro remotely, change its settings, start and stop recordings, and even see the live preview from here. The app also lets you transfer footage to your phone for editing directly with the GoPro Quick app. Now, when it comes to editing, your GoPro Quick app is a great option for basic edits like trimming and adding music. There is also a desktop version that offers more control, in my opinion. GoPro Quick is a basic editing software that is good for simple and fast edits. If you would like me to create a full editing tutorial with GoPro Quick, let me know down in the comments and I'll create one for you. Now, for more control over your edits, I would recommend using more professional editing software like CapCut, this is free by the way, or Final Cut Pro if you have a MacBook, or DaVinci Resolve, which is a free professional video editor. I'm planning to create more editing tutorials on this channel, so subscribe if you don't want to miss them. I hope this tutorial was useful. Thanks for watching.